Alrighty, well I achieved a bit today. Uh, didn't go quite as well as planned, but it's nothing that we can't get perfect at a later point. Basically, I painted part of the van under the tailgate. Some of you may remember, just for a few seconds, seeing where the hinges were for the tailgate, and also as the roof of the van drops off into the hinge area, very slight amount of rust, and a lot of that area, when it got a respray, none of that got touched. And it seems as though they've got like a white primer and then the colour over the top of that. Like, you know, you get your white primer and then your proper iridescent dark purpley shit that is the colour of the vehicle. A lot of that iridescent stuff had just come off, and you were back to white primer, and some of that white primer had actually gone to the point of rust. But see, here's the intriguing thing. It's not rust bubbles, so it's not that big of a deal. If it's rust bubbles, you really need to strip it all back, sand it back bare, take all the rust bubbles out, put bog in there, you know, it becomes a real fucking shitstorm. Thank God it hadn't got to that rust bubbles point. It was just that light tinges of rust that you get. And a lot of cars, even ones that are well painted, around the hinges they'll get rust. And I think it's a lot to do with the bolts going in. You know, there's a bit of bare metal in there somewhere when they make it in the factory, when they, you know, install the hinges initially. Because I've seen cars that are 12 years old with a slight rust leak, but I know from having been in building that when you use the self-tapping screws, you will get a slight rust thing end up in the gutter next week, sort of thing, because of that, you know, little bit of bare metal there. But, you know, that's one thing around the hinges, but there's no need for it to be coming at the back of the roof, because there's nothing there. It's the same one solid piece of sheet metal. You know, there's no joins or fucking anything, you know, let alone any actual holes that have gone through it or any swarf that's been created. So anyway, I used about 3 different kinds of paint. Red oxide. It's a primer. It's actually got what is essentially rust in it. So it's sort of red oxide. It's actually iron oxide, and I think the rest of it is like some sort of an enamel type shit or something, but some type of, you know, primer. Where I worked at my apprenticeship with spray painting, the guy's father, who had long since passed away, he died in the 90s or something. He used to actually be able to get rust from his sandblasting somehow and mix it with something to make this stuff up, and he could actually make this stuff from scratch and save a slight amount of money, but it was a lot of bullshit for what it was. Then I went ahead and used just a bit of basic silver enamel. And the thing is aluminium, but it's actually, there's no aluminium in it. It's just fairly certain it's enamel. Most of these almost guaranteed they're QD enamel, which is quick dry enamel. Yeah, it's cheap, that stuff. And then I had this other can which I thought had been around for 15 years, and to be quite bloody honest, it'd be closer to 20 years, because I know exactly where it come from. And it's a bit of this shit. So that's a bit of blue. And I tell you what, when it's actually, it's not really that sort of a deep blue. It's a bit of a sort of a, it's more like the colour down here. And I tell you what, it's surprisingly close to the van colour. Not totally, but good enough. Couple of stuff-ups though. I put 2 coats of this on. I had to do the hinges first and then that gap in the roof, which meant I had to put the tailgate up part way and sort of strap it back to the latch on the bottom and off to this handle that's on the tailgate to sort of get it to sit there. Yeah, another fly. Get it to sort of sit in that medium position, because the gas struts want to either have it fully up or fully down. So anyway, I got that thing in that medium position, and it gave me some access to it. I'm not saying it was great. It certainly wasn't pretty, but you know, I could spray it. Now the alternative is to have to pull out electrical cables, and it's even got washers on the back tailgate, so you know, water pipes as well, and all this baloney, just in order to, you know, get right into this. But bugger that bullshit, you know, it hasn't gone to actual bubble rust, and if it had, I'd be severely pissed. But you know, we just need a bit of an access in there, and we got some access standing on a ladder, covered in, well, what's essentially Christmas wrapping paper and masking tape, and that's where we fell in a hole in one part. The masking tape is also probably bloody 15 years old or something, and oh yeah, it's shit. And it left all this sticky fucking shit all over the top of the car. Fuck me. Not happy, not happy. So in due course I know that it doesn't sound great, but there's ways and means to get this off, and I think the most obvious one, you know, you go, oh, detergent. Well, I could use some dishwashing detergent, but there's another one, and that's the, I know for certain this gets the sticker goo off. It's the old Ajax spray and wipe. This is just what I spray on my table and all that sort of business, and, oh, you know, clean me bathroom basin with, and any Laminex type stuff. In fact, I also cleaned the hubcaps today because, you know, being a dealership, well, I knew some bastard would have to do it somewhere along the line. Oh, they put Armour All on the fucking hubcaps and the wheels. Oh, that bloody crap. It's like fucking cooking oil. You might as well get out a can of that fucking Pam shit that we don't have here in Australia, but you know what I'm saying, like the aerosol fucking cooking oil, just, you know, because it's just shit. All it does is attract dust. So I put on some spray and wipe and cleared that shit off, because it had just been getting all the dust sticking to it. So yeah. So anyway, I think that will get rid of a lot of my sticky stuff. Having said that, some of the red oxide primer actually got underneath the blasted masking tape on the roof, so you got a little bit of brown here and there. But my other stuff up, one that shouldn't have happened, is that I got a bit of actual red oxide on the tailgate, and then it turned out some of that silver shit too, I found out, also got on the tailgate. They're both very thin layers. There is a way out of this though, and it's only because there's such thin layers. And it's not the best on the original paint unless you keep it specifically in the right point, which you can. You get cutting compound. Now, some of you may know cut and polish. Well, originally, before I started my apprenticeship, they were at another place, and they used to have so much frickin' paint fumes coming out the door that it would actually get paint dots on the car, the two cars owned by the guys in the business next door. They kept giving them tin after tin of cut and polish. Now, what cut and polish is if you get a little bit of overspray and a little bit of bullshit, as these guys were getting quite a lot, on your vehicles, you can actually get this stuff on, and it will sort of take off it's like a very, very, very fine abrasive, to the point it's basically a buffing compound. And you can take off slight layers of muck and stuff that's like overspray, stuff that's very finely grained on there. You got to rub and rub and rub. A lot of people know cut and polish, which is actually like the cutting compound mixed with polish, and that's one way. I think my father may have some, so I'll go and see what he's got. probably next weekend. But failing that, I'll buy some just straight cutting compound to be able to take those layers off. And you got to do a bloody lot of rub. But basically speaking, it will go and take off that thin layer of paint and give me the original paint underneath. And it's a remarkable how it does it. It's like, it saves your ass so much, and it's just shocking that so few people know about the damn stuff. Because if you stuff up with spray painting, this stuff will save your ass. And, well, I may have stuffed up and not masked up correctly, or well enough, and, yeah, I didn't really have any newspaper, and I used that blasted Christmas paper, and, like, gift wrapping paper, basically. And, yeah, we may have done a few doozies there. But I'm really a bit annoyed about that. Masking tape. I mean, I must admit the bloody vehicle was probably over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and that could have attributed to that stuff. But I know when it's cooler, it's a little bit more crumblier, you know. And I'll give it a shot first with detergent, and then if that doesn't work, I'll get the spray and wipe, because the spray and wipe's probably not the sort of shit you want to have on your paint, or if you do, you want to wash it off fairly quickly. Whereas detergent, it doesn't really matter. And if it's cool enough, from memory, it goes sort of like crumbly. You can almost scratch it off, and you know it comes off quite easily with the detergent. But one of these things of it just being summer and it being masking tape that's a bit old. I didn't know what the point was, because during my apprenticeship I would rarely ever see any of that sort of tacking stuff. But now they have low tack stuff that actually lasts for 8 hours, 16 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, and you pick your different masking tape to suit. And the tack will fail after that amount of time because, well, it's made to, you know. And, yeah, one word of advice, never go and paint your vehicle and then go, oh, you know, 3 hours later, 4 hours later, wash it. There will be fumes coming from the paint still until the paint is cured. I recommend leaving it at least a day, preferably 2 days, before you go and wash it and, you know, polish it. But it is a good idea once you've painted the car to actually wash it a couple of days later. And you know, you could wash it 8 hours later if you wanted to, but the paint it's probably good by then to wash it, although it might not be fully cured. But you do not want to polish it until 2 days after. Because, yeah, if there's any fumes coming at it, I don't know, they might not go too well with the polish. You'll probably be fine, but a lot of people don't realise how long, and I've seen problems, and they call it pinholes, because they have what looks like a pin stabbed through the second layer of paint, because the primer was still releasing gases, and those gas bubbles actually sat in the second layer of paint while it was wet, and then you got all these little holes everywhere. You wouldn't believe it until you've actually seen it. But anyway, I'll take you guys out and I'll show you how it turned out. And it's not too bad, and I'm sort of pleasantly surprised at how close that colour was to my van colour. And you know, you got this little rim you can see from the outside. And I'm not really worried, because I'd rather have a little tiny bit of paint that's not the perfect colour and save the van from rusting in the fucking roof, which is something you almost won't come back from, not without ridiculously extended effort. And you know, oh man, you really burn yourself for roadworthies with any sort of rusted roof. I saw dickheads trying to sell a van with a rusted fucking pillar, and it was like the front pillar against the fucking driver's side or the passenger side or something. It was like, fuck me. Some idiots try and sell anything. But anyway, I'll take you out there and I'll show you, and I'll probably lift the tailgate up just to show you what it looks like underneath. There is some that looks a little bit frosty. That's overspray that I sprayed in there, the hinges first, and then I sprayed on the top of the roof. And because there was some that just sort of, you know, didn't quite get around the corner, you get that sort of a frosted look because it's you know, it hasn't fully bonded. And some of that will cause overspray at a later point. We'll probably wipe out of there with a wet rag or something But it looks sort of like a matte finish inside of it, but that's just because it, you know, didn't fully get right down in past it when I was spraying the roof, and that's just what you have, and it's because it's sort of sprayed it, sort of spattered onto the glossy finish when I've done the second lot of painting on the roof, because I've done the hinge lot first. But anyway, I'll show you what it looks like. So all in all, it sort of actually looks fairly good. Having gone from a, well, we're just primer and we're just about to flake through, and there's slight, you know, there's bits of rust you could see in the back of these hinges, you know, and you can see, especially if I pull down, you get that sort of overspray look. A lot of that will actually wipe off with a damp rag. But you got some that is as glossy as glossy. Some is perfectly glossy still. A lot of this is fairly nice sort of a finish, but yeah, we've even got some, well, you see here it's been taped around here, but I'll lift this part open. So surprise, surprise, nothing hit any of the plastic anywhere here, but that's a good hand that does that. And see a little bit of the brown primer in there still, maybe. See where the tape comes through, and you got a bit of, yeah, it's sort of fairly made a mess of the roof. See, you can even see the tape on the frickin' window. Blasted tape. And there's your tape running right along the back, making a fucking dog's balls of itself. All along here. Bits along here. But anyway, as we have some kind of a temperature drop, that'll probably come off fairly easily. Yeah, that's my little washer line. So they're smart. They've actually got a connector here, so that when you take the freaking thing off, you just pull the connector when you take the tailgate off. You think it might be in here, but instead they actually put it right there. Yeah. This is another one I got given the other day too. Bloody great big. It's like a 2.5 gallon friggin', what's his name? It's that big, you know, and I've already got, I got one really good brand of this stuff, a proper esky one with a blimmin', yeah, everything you could dream of on it. And yet I'm having trouble getting too many cardboard boxes, too many, or any polystyrene boxes at all, really. There seem to be, I'm not joking, I saw a glorified fucking polystyrene box that just folds flat. They wanted $65 for this fucking polystyrene box. These camping joints are just fucking capitalist rapists. For a bloody piece of polystyrene, $65. But anyway, I might end up, because this has got such a large top on it, I might end up actually using this as a, more or less a, you know, put your ice packs in there and put some, and use it as a fridge. Because it's so big, and I've already got one, I think I've actually got 2 of these, to be honest. But this is bigger than all my other ones, so, yeah. But anyway, that was another one from a dead relative. So yeah, anyway, that concludes today's little effort.